Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about lens selection. So let's dive right into it. Well, first thing you have to understand, before you buy an interchangeable lens camera, you have to understand your mere money expenditure would happen on lenses because lenses are the key factor here and lenses suits you. It's not something like, okay, this person has this lens, so I'm gonna buy that. Do not do like that, simply because lens is like shoes, where it's like it has to fit you, your need, your requirement, your budget, your experience. It has to fit inside you, otherwise it will simply not work for you. So if you watch any old videos or like many old reviews, as in like early 2010 or 2000s, you will say every Tom, Dick and Harry is like, go prime, get as many prime lenses as you can. And there is a very good reason for that, and those reasons apply today also. For example, they are cheap comparatively speaking. If you get the same aperture on a prime lens versus on a zoom lens, prime lenses will be always cheaper. Then they are brighter, so zoom lenses, let's say, max out at f2.8 or f2 at best case scenario. Prime lenses can go bonkers, like as some lenses has went as high as f1.8, f1.2 or f1 or sometimes 0.95. That is huge, that is bright as hell. And they are cheap, they are bright, they are light also. That is a very critical aspect, especially if you are carrying your camera equipment every day. That weight becomes a serious consideration, specifically once you start to age. So in your youth you'll be like, yeah, I can do this, but as you age you're like, dude, I can't do this. So fundamentally lightweight also plays a very basically critical aspect. And then you have sharpness, simply because you have less elements to perfect, it's much more achievable. It's like, hey, there are like 10 glass element, make sure these things work properly, versus like, let's say there are 16 glass element. You can understand that like those 16 would be much more difficult to get perfect. So fundamentally the sharpness, the barrel distortion, all those jazz, they are perfect in a prime lenses. So is prime lenses king? Well, yes and no. They do come with one serious side effect. You have to know beforehand that what the heck you want to do with this, because once you buy it, you will be like surprised how unflexible, basically zero flexibility and zero freedom. For example, let's say you bought a 50mm nifty 50 and you are like, yeah, awesome, 50mm, and they are suiting you well for basically taking portraits. But again, there is a serious limitation to that. For example, the nose will have certain kind of features to it. It's like it's gonna be pointy. Now you do not have the luxury to zoom in, so you can, you know, flatten it out more. You can't do that. Or let's say you are taking photographs of a, let's say, mountain or something like that. You can't move closer or further away to a mountain. Your lens is not gonna fit that effectively, so to say. So that fact makes it very uncomfortable for starters. They are awesome, they are legendary for basically pros who know what they're doing. So for example, there is a person who only takes photographs of, like, you know, small objects. They're buying a perfect macro lenses. Awesome macro prime lenses, they are amazing. But here's the deal, how many of you at a beginning moment in your time is like, yeah, I already know what I'm gonna do. So that's the reason, zero flexibility and freedom, that becomes a serious hindrance with prime lenses. Now solution is holy trinity lenses. Now these are zoom lenses, 3 zoom lenses specifically, that solves all this problem. Basically buy these 3 lenses and you should be able to do almost everything, or practically speaking, just buy 2 of them and 99.9% of tasks will be taken care of. Buy 3 if you are like extra one, you have money and you want to flex, or you want to be absolutely damn sure no matter what job comes you know, on your way, you can handle it. So for most common human tasks, not extreme scenarios like macro or like extreme telephoto or these sort of thing, most of the time these 3 lenses got your back. They are more than good enough to do more than enough things. So zoom lenses, you have to understand this, in early days, as in like early 90s, even the zoom lenses always existed. Like these lenses go back to 100 years, so to say. So they always existed. It was not very good, simply because they had too much distortion, too much vignetting, too much color fringing, simply because the glass elements were not that refined. We did not have the technology. But with the advance of computer CAD modelings, light understanding, and again, more we started to manufacture these, more we manufacture, the more we learned, more we refined. So fundamentally nowadays you can get quality that is comparable between a good zoom lens versus a good prime lens. You have to buy expensive prime lens to, you know, beat these things. So, and when I say expensive prime lens, I really mean expensive, painfully expensive. So are these 3 lenses amazing? Well, yes, in terms of their capability, performance, all that, just like price to performance ratio, they are amazing. But they are super expensive and super heavy, as in like you have to be ready for the commitment. Like these will make your camera body look like free chump change. So this is why lenses are the key. So let's take a closer look at each of these 3 pillars, so to say. So first we have super wide zoom. Now these are generally classified as 14 to 24 millimeter. That's why I specified prime lenses. Simply means that rating is fixed, you cannot change that. And 14 to 24, it's like much wider. It's basically beyond your human eye perception. Now be mindful, human eye perception is not quantifiable, simply because we do not have a camera in our eyes, we have a scanner. It moves around and scans everything, so you cannot tangibly, okay, my eyes only look like this. You cannot do that, because again, it moves. The moment you're like, okay, can I see the side, your eye will move there. So fundamentally, field of view of a human eye is not quantifiable that way, but these exceed that. So fundamentally, if you're like, I'm standing here, I'm gonna take up, like, you know, just a moment to capture whatever I'm seeing, this lenses generally will show more. Fundamentally, they are much wider, and they are, I'm talking about holy trinity lenses, were made for negative era. Negative were very good with many things, like exposure. Basically, they did not had highlight roll off issues. They were very good at that. Dynamic range, awesome, but they had very serious issue when it came to low light sensitivity. Basically, anything below f2.8, good luck with that. So if you tried f3 or f4, yeah, it will work again, especially if you are dealing with broad daylight, awesome. But the moment light level goes down, yeah, negatives were not that very good at that. So fundamentally, f2.8 became standard, and this is fixed aperture, so to say. So it's not going to change. So it also makes them very useful for video making. So if you're making video and you want to zoom in for dramatic purposes, it will not just like magically your ISO value has to change to compensate for aperture closure. So what does this lens do? Like, why do people want to buy this? And these lenses are expensive AF, because they allow you to show large things. For example, you have large castle and you want to show that, rather than if you go too far back, it will start to feel like a toy, like a miniature kind of effect happens if you go too far away. Like, and again, atmospheric distortion also kind of makes it, you know, you can't feel it, so to say. So there is a vastness that you have to convey. So if you want to convey like this puppy is vast, ultra wide is your you know, champion. And if you want to do astrophotography, fundamentally you have to use this. If you want to show whole of Milky Way, which how it rises in the night, this lenses are the only option you have. And car photography also utilizes, you know, like, why the heck car are not huge? Well, you have to understand it. Car modeling, as in, like, I used to be an artist, so fundamentally I can tell you, like, every car designer, specifically when it comes to luxury cars, they put a lot of effort, as in like $1 million to $1 billion kind of effort to give every single car a unique signature, unique curves. Even something like Rolls-Royce Phantom, I've seen one of them in real life. Like, from far it does not look that impressive, but the moment you go like, whoa, like somebody put time, like how the heck the doors are curved. Now if you do take a photograph from far away, it will not convey in the image, so you want them up close. How the heck you're gonna be up close? Ultra wide. So ultra wides are very good for showing the vastness, showing curves in things. They are awesome for that. Not really good for facial features. So fundamentally, you do not want to take portraits with this puppy. So that's the whole point of these lenses. You want to show large objects, large vastness. You want to convey that. Like this flyover, it's huge. Ultra wide versus telephoto, you will literally say, telephoto, you have to go so far back, it will like, it's a small thing. You take an ultra wide, whoa, it's a huge thing. So fundamentally, that's why people go for this ultra wide thing. Now let's give us some comparison of price. So for Sony department, this puppy is around 3 lakhs rupees. Idiotically expensive. Let's just put it that way. Idiotically expensive. What about Canon? Canon is 1.8 lakhs, a bit less, like almost 2 lakh versus 3 lakhs. And then we talk to Nikon. Nikon is also 1.8 lakh. Now you're like, wait a minute, why the heck Sony is so ludicrously expensive? Simply because Sony is making Gen 2 of this lens. Gen 1 was not this expensive. Gen 2 is. The reason for that is Sony was like, okay, whenever lens manufacturing is kind of arms race, so you make the first one, you will be okay with it. No matter how much you do, you will be only okay. The second one, whoever makes it, they get better technology because they will learn from your mistake. So you have to make a third one to compensate for that. Sony did that. So they realized all these lenses, they are blocking out. They are not going very wide. So, and it wide angle lenses, 14mm to 50, let's say 13mm, that's a huge difference. So Sony said out, it's like, okay, let's remove money as a constraint, let's go bonkers. And they went down to 12mm. At this point in time, this puppy is flat out reaching 180-degree kind of field of view. Like if they push it even further, it will be like, yeah, fisheye lens. So it's mind-bogglingly wide. Now you're like, wait a minute, 14, 12, not too much difference. Trust me, more than enough difference, because it's like one angle like this, it turns literally like this. So you can literally take extra foot of space if you're like standing here and there is a sculpture here and you want to show everything in the museum. Fundamentally, this lens will make, whoa, I'm not touching anything that is like low as 14, or Canon, which is 15 for some reason. Like 15 is a bit odd. And for star photography, the people will be like 12nm, shut up, take my money. So these are expensive lenses, but you get the point. They are the very perfect tool to convey vastness, large things, awesome for that. Now we come to the standard lens. I'm guaranteed 99% sure most of you have used this already, which is 24 to 70mm f2.8. Now f2.8, be mindful, that can change. There are many lenses that are quote unquote standard zoom, but they have different aperture rating. So some have variable aperture, very cheap lenses, which we call kit lenses. Now if you are dealing with small basically DSLR, like let's say D800 or 80D or think of that nature, you will have heard of these lenses known as 18 to 55. You're like, what the heck is that? 18 to 15.5. This lens, just multiply that number by 1.5, so you will get the point. Exactly, standard zoom lens. Most people have experience with this. However, aperture is a critical aspect here. f2.8 is a whole different game. So this is what we call standard zoom, and this is everyday kind of equipment. This is basically something will be on top of your camera most of the time, because you have to set up, like you need a bit of setup with all other lenses, especially two other lenses of the Holy Trinity. This lens is like just pull it out, take a photo, done. It's perfect for those kind of scenario, and it does bit of everything. So basically, if you want to show the vastness, it's not gonna show whoa vastness. It's like good. So for example, if you want to take a couple photography, and like specifically in India we do a lot of intricate wedding set design, so in those sort of scenario you do want to show that like this is fast things, this lens will do that. But if you want to like take a couple photography and like you want to show intimacy, you want to zoom in for 70 mm is good for that kind of scenario. So it's a very versatile lens. It's the lens that most likely will be on your camera and permanently stay there. So that's the whole point. And because of the basically demand for these lenses, there are a lot of options. So you can go expensive one as f2.8, and you can go even more expensive, as in like Canon has released a new one which is f2.1. Be mindful, it's much heavier, much more expensive, but it does have that extra stop of light which will translate. Specifically if you deal a lot of low light, I would say go with that if you can afford it. So let's look at price here. Nikon one would be 1.9 lakhs, almost 2 lakhs. Sony one would be 1.6 lakhs, and Canon would be 1.8 lakhs. And that's the whole thing that I also want to convey. Many times people have this perception that Sony lenses are much more expensive than Nikon and Canons. That is absolutely true when you are comparing mirrorless lenses versus DSLR lenses. That's absolutely true, fundamentally true. But the moment you compare, let's say RF mount or Z mount to basically E mount, you will be like, whoa, they are almost the same. In this scenario, Sony is the cheaper one. So you get the point. So this is what we call standard. This is the lens that most likely you're gonna buy no matter what. It's like, yeah, I have to have this. And because of the demand, they have refined this puppy to like n30 degrees. So really good lens. It's like you put in your camera body and like, I got this. Most photographic opportunity you can take care of. Then we come to 70 to 200 f2.8. Now be mindful, this is what we call a telephoto zoom. So this allows you to go far. That's the whole selling point of this lens. It allows you to bring things that are far away closer to you. For example, wildlife photography is generally not recommended to be very close to wild animals. So fundamentally you have to utilize this lens. Then we talking about, let's say, surfers, people are doing surfing. You're not gonna be standing on sea, so to say. So fundamentally you have to utilize this lens. So it's a very good sports lens. Now be mindful, when I'm talking about sports, I do not mean like extreme sports, for example football or cricket, simply because the reason I'm calling them extreme is simply because the field size is huge. It's humongous. Field size of cricket is huge, bonkers. Football, bonkers. So for those sort of scenario, it will kind of fall short. However, you can compensate for it by utilizing much higher megapixel camera, which is normal nowadays. So they're good for sports, they're very good for wildlife photography, and they are awesome for portrait. The reason for portrait aspect is that human face has a lot of three-dimensional feature. So if you utilize a wide angle lenses, it kind of exaggerates them. It's like pointy, it's like the same thing that happens with cars, where it's like it pops out more. That kind of makes it unflattering to look at. It's like you look at human face and nose is like, ooh. You don't want to do that. It like does not feel good. So how do you compress the field of view? You use 70 to 200. At that point in time, the more mm you increase, basically let's say 80 mm, 90 mm, you're gonna start to compress the face. And there is another advantage at this kind of bright apertures, as in like f2.8, the background poof disappears, like there is no background here. So that allows you to really isolate the subject, flatten out the facial features, and that gives a much more pleasing facial looks. Like you'll be like, whoa, that's some seriously high quality print material. And you will see like there are portrait lenses as specified that are like 80 mm, 90 mm. Because of this, like you can just buy this 70 to 200 and take care of most of the things. However, those portrait lenses may come in a scenario where they are like f1.8, so much brighter. But again, f2.8 with modern sensors, more than good enough. So this is a very desirable lens. However, because of its cost and weight, it's heavy as hell. So f4 options are also available. Be mindful, f4 is was not recommended in negative era, but now it is in digital sensor. The amount of sensitivity we have, specifically like we are talking about bonkers camera, as in like Sony A7 S3, it's like, yeah, just buy f4, don't even think about it, just buy f4. So you can do lighter, cheaper with f4, and it's more than good enough specifically. And if you are dealing with a daytime photography most of the time, don't even think about f2.8. It's just extra money that you are wasting, and it will make it mostly because it's heavy. Like that part will hurt you. Like money, it's one time use, let's say saved up the money, you spend the money, yeah, okay, done. No. But weight will become an issue. It's like, yeah, it's just staying in my closet because it's too weight. So fundamentally you have to be mindful of that. And it also has some third-party options. So now look at the pricing. So Canon pricing is 2.1 lakh, little bit less than Sony. Nikon is 2 lakhs and Sony is 2.3 lakhs. So fundamentally almost same pricing, so to say. So this is why these three lenses are considered as holy trinity. Basically, if you have these three lenses, you can take care of almost everything that comes in front of you. And most of the time, a professional photographer, if they know what they are doing, if they are familiar with the field that they are working with, they will buy 2 of these and they'll be like, I got this, man, I got this. So if they do a lot of travel photography, wildlife photography, they will buy 70 to 200 and ultra wide lenses, or sometimes standard or this. So 2 lenses most of the time you will take care of everything, and 3 if you just want to show off. So this was my presentation on this holy trinity lenses. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.